Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Enabling Green Mobility podcast. Today I'm sitting together with Timo Collard, Product Manager at Fastening Systems. Hi Timo.
Hi Timo.
Pleasure to have you here today. We are talking about the EPP, the Engineered Polymer Pad. But before we talk about EPP, Timo, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from? Who are you? What role do you currently have at Vossloh?
At first, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very glad to be here and also very excited. So my name is Timo Collard. I'm working for Vossloh Fastening Systems since around 12 years now. I'm 31 years old. I started my profession here as an apprentice. And then afterwards worked in the business development department. So at first I did sales controlling, market analysis, this kind of stuff. And I took over a little bit more responsibility as business development manager. And in parallel, I did my studies as a Bachelor of Arts in Business Administration and Master of Science for Sales Management. And just started 2 years ago when we established a new strategic product management department at Vossloh Fastening Systems in Verdol. I took over the responsibility for the segment composite material, which includes our engineered polymer pad and our engineered polymer sleeper.
Okay. And as we're talking about EPP today, tell us a little bit, what role did you play in the development of the EPP?
Luckily, I was directly at the beginning involved for this new product. And when we started our development project, which was in my former role in the business development department, I took over the lead for the development project. That was in 2021. At that point, we wanted to develop our own under sleeper pads. So at that point, there was no name, there was no engineered polymer pad existing. So I had the chance directly from the beginning to shape this new product group together with a very nice project team, which I had with my colleagues from R&D, from industrial engineering, purchasing, quality, marketing, and also right from the beginning from our sustainability team, because that was from the beginning a very important aspect of this new development.
Okay. And as you said, completely new under sleeper pad. Was that entirely new to Vossloh, for the entire industry even? Or how did the ideation about an under sleeper pad start?
Actually, under sleeper pads are existing in the market. So there is already a segment for under sleeper pads. Under sleeper pads are a part of the sleeper. So they are attached to the bottom side of the sleeper. You can see it if you have a look here. That is one half of a sleeper which is attached at the bottom of the concrete sleeper. So with this bonding layer to the wet concrete. So it was already existing, but it is a perfect fit in our own product portfolio because, we have the sleepers, we have the turnouts, the railway fastening systems, also all kind of services around. So it fit perfectly in our product portfolio. And we wanted to make something different, which is at the end got the most sustainable under sleeper pad in the segment.
And sustainable in terms of what, or what makes it so sustainable?
So this, our engineered polymer pad, the elastic layer, so the black layer you can see, is exclusively from a recycled material. There's no virgin material inside. It's also manufactured using exclusively green energy, also from our own photovoltaic plant. And at the end of the lifetime, it's possible to separate it again from the concrete sleeper, for example, and to recycle it completely. And that was right from the beginning one of the targets of our project team.
And what is the exact purpose of the under sleeper pad? Why is it necessary to have that in the track?
So in the track, the under sleeper pad, or our engineered polymer pad in this case, functions as elastic layer between the concrete sleeper, or can also be a wooden sleeper or composite sleeper, and the ballast underneath. In the most cases, it's a concrete sleeper, and the concrete sleeper has only like 3 to 5% contact area to the ballast stones underneath. So the load is really, when a train is passing by, really pressing this ballast stones, and there are only some of them having contact to the concrete sleeper. That's why they get destroyed. They need to be replaced. They need to be cleaned. They need to be tamped also. And that's why an under sleeper pad helps to distribute the load on more ballast stones and so to protect the ballast. That is one purpose of our engineered polymer pad. And that's why the first version we see here, we name it ballast shield, because the main target is ballast protection, although it offers more advantages than just ballast protection.
What are the other advantages if you're talking about those other advantages already?
General advantages of under-sleeper pads besides ballast protection is, for example, noise and vibration reduction, which you use in urban environments, for example, to help out the inhabitants, which have this noise concerns from tram tracks or from metro tracks. That is one application field. There's also another application field because under sleeper pads improve the lateral sleeper resistance of the sleeper. It sounds difficult, but at the end, it's quite easy. More ballast stones get stuck in the under sleeper pad, and so the sleeper cannot break out to the sides, because especially in summer, when the temperature increases a lot, the rails are welded continuously, so they have no way to go, and they are expanding, and then it can happen that the whole track, the sleepers, break out to the side. And to get a good resistance against this breakout, against this, we name it track buckling, there you need a good lateral sleeper resistance, and therefore the under sleeper pad also helps.
Compared to rail networks from 10 to 20 years ago, what do you see is changing in the network, and why is it then important maybe to have the EPP installed?
Yeah, we see in general that, for example, in Europe, we don't have too many new projects, new tracks which are built. Yeah, there's a lot of refurbishment, and the tracks still should be, because more mobility is switched from car traffic to the train. We see more frequency of trains. We see existing track sections be more heavily loaded. Speeds are increasing in some rail tracks. And so the requirements in general are much harder than they were in the past. And especially in these heavily loaded track sections, under sleeper pads make a lot of sense.
So taking all this together, probably that was then also the key insight to say we need to develop something new. What else was there maybe that you as a product manager found surprising when stepping into that field of new product development with the EPP?
Yeah. I mean, generally in my role as product manager, I'm always, I was surprised about how open customers speak about their problems and challenges, and generally how open they are regarding new innovations. Because if you speak normally about the rail infrastructure industry, everyone says railway is very conservative, it's safety related, which is the case definitely, and the cycles are quite long to bring in new products. But nevertheless, you find in different markets around the world, doesn't matter the country, in Asia, in Europe, in Australia, you always find customers who want to be the first mover, who want to implement something new. So kind of early adopters, you can say. And that is what I really enjoy a lot. And what I also like to see in some markets now is that customers are really bringing in sustainability criteria in their tenders. Yeah, so it starts to get evaluation criteria to really award a supplier who has maybe a low carbon footprint. And that is something which is, especially in my segment, composite material, really a relevant tender evaluation criteria.
You briefly touched upon the countries, and some of them want to be early adopter countries, but also rail operators. Where do we see the EPP being in action? In which countries?
Yeah. Actually, it can be used all around the world. Where the market for under sleeper pads is already very developed is in Europe, but also you see around the world in the United States, for example, that they also start to use under sleeper pads more and more. So basically, the whole world is a target market for our engineered polymer pad.
Okay, but also in Asia.
Also possible.
Also in Asia. Okay. I mean, it's obviously not only you who is behind the EPP, and you mentioned that in the beginning, that there is also quite a diverse set of other teams that are involved. Can you tell us a little bit about the teamwork that is happening behind the scenes of the EPP?
Yeah, gladly. I think because obviously, as you can imagine, a product like this is not developed by a small circle of people. So at the end, we have a very diverse project team. Just with the development of this under sleeper pad, we had, for example, 3 people in our R&D department working on the development. And that, I think, is a perfect example how teamwork should work, because even in this department we have one expert who has actually a PhD in polymers and plastics. And he was very much looking for the ideal material composition, which we at the end reached. Yeah, we had another expert who is a well-known expert generally in the function of under-sleeper pads and how to test them. Yeah, and we had another person who was really looking into the methodological approach of how to develop such kind of product. And that at the end was, I think, really a good mixture to get like the first very proud moment when we, at that point, were able to show the first prototype, which fulfilled all our requirements.
Tell us maybe again a little bit about the material composition. If I'm not mistaken, it's 3 layers that make the EPP, right?
Exactly.
And what are those 3 layers?
Yeah, again, actually, we have this bonding layer, which is a kind of fleece, as you can see, that makes sure that we get a good bond to the concrete, because the concrete is wet. Yeah, and during the production process of the concrete sleeper, the under sleeper pad is pushed into it, maybe vibrate it in, depends on the production process of the sleeper manufacturer. And we need to have a layer which can guarantee a good bond, so that during the lifetime of the sleeper, the under sleeper pad is not ripped off, because then it would lose its function. Yeah, that is the one layer.
Okay, so, but you also said that it also works with composite materials and with wooden sleepers as well, if needed.
It would also be possible. That's quite, I would say, for the moment, a kind of niche application field, but it's possible. And also even on hollows or on steel sleepers, then you would glue it on the fleece layer here.
Okay.
Exactly. But regarding the other 2 layers, so the material we are using is a recycled thermoplastic elastomer, so RTPE, we name it. And the mid layer is a foamed layer, and we can change by the foaming, we can change the elasticity of the pad. Because depending on the application field, if you have heavy hole, you want to have a more stiff solution. If you have maybe vibration reduction, you want to have a more elastic material. So that we can change by the degree of foaming and also with the detailed material composition. And then we have one last layer, which is really the layer which is very thin, which has a contact to the ballast stones, which is not foamed, so that it is safe and make sure that it's not penetrated from the ballast stones.
You touched upon the different application fields for the EPP and the different elasticities that EPPs can have. Please go through that one by one again. So for heavy haul, it's more stiff.
Exactly, yeah.
And then continue, please.
Yeah, okay. Okay, then you normally, I mean, it always depends, because honestly speaking, if you speak to different customers, everyone has their kind of own philosophies. And although there's a standard in place, for example, a European standard, every customer still has their own, I would say, preferences. But if you speak generally about it, stiff under sleeper pad is for heavy hole. I would say like medium stiff is normally used for conventional rail and high speed on ballast. And you're highly elastic, and that's also the case when under sleeper pads normally tend to get thicker. Those are normally used in urban transport for vibration and noise reduction.
And for all those application areas, we have solutions in place that we can offer.
Actually, for the moment, we have in place for the heavy haul segment, so the stiff ones, and the medium stiff ones for conventional rail and high speed on ballast. What we still want to evolve a little bit, so the topic for the future is the topic vibration, noise and vibration reduction.
Okay. And I guess recently here in our head office in Verdol, we initiated or started the manufacturing process for EPP, right?
Exactly, yeah, that's it. So that was, I would say, one of the most proudest moments we had here. And because we started just 2 months ago, we started with the first production of the first engineered polymer pad from our own serial production line. So we are currently in a phase of, we name it a trial phase. So we plan to have this one done until Q2 of next year. So that means we are still doing some fine alignments and adjustments also on the new machinery, which we have. And there we had then the first engineered polymer pad produced from our own machinery. And that was very special because if you think of working together, I mentioned before the R&D guys, they are taking care of the prototyping, but we already have obviously also a big team taking care of whole production process, of designing the machinery, which is unique. Yeah? And to see, so we discussed during years and months, you saw always the slides with a nice factory, how it should look like, and you saw the layout drawings. And at the end of the day, now there was a moment where you're standing there and the machine is completely set up. It's an amazing feeling. And then to see the first products popping out, although there are still slight adjustments necessary, but that was, I would say, a very proud moment for the whole team.
Nice. Okay. You talked about the further refinement maybe of the machine going into next year, 2026. What else is there in the future for EPP? What are the next steps that you are looking at?
Yeah, so actually the most important topic, and that's the whole focus now, is really to prepare ourselves for the start of production then in Q2 of next year. Then we will really focus the market introduction. So we will finalize the homologation tests also from our serial production line, from the products coming out there. Then we can really get into more detailed exchange with the customers on homologation processes and to really then get installed the undersleeper pads in track. So, and in the meantime, we are working a lot together with our existing customers, the sleeper manufacturers and the railway operators, which we also deliver, for example, with our railway fastening systems. And we discuss together with them the bonding to get a good bond between our undersleeper pads and the concrete sleepers.
Okay. And for you personally, you plan to stay with the EPP and bring it to the masses, or how do you look at it?
Exactly, that's the way. So I'm really looking forward to the moment when we can really implement it in a larger scale and pitch it to more and more customers more in detail and be ready to supply. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And then there will be, as always, plenty of more applications. Yeah. More different elasticities, potential for further improvement, for further developments. I would say not further improvements, but further developments. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Okay. So maybe to wrap it all up, what would you say are the 3, 4, 5 key points for the EPP that you want our customers and the outside world in the railway industry and beyond know about EPP?
Yeah, I think very important is the EPP is at first a higher initial investment, obviously, because you have an additional part. Yeah, so you are initially paying a little more, but it pays off during the whole life cycle. Yeah, because you're saving a lot of money for maintenance, because you're increasing the intervals for ballast cleaning, for ballast tamping, for ballast replacement. Yeah, and that's how it pays off. And very important, you also increase the availability of your track. And that's not only important for the operators, but also for the passengers. Yeah, so that is a big topic. And then if you are anyways looking into undersleeper pads, we have definitely the most sustainable one in the market. So we want to, and that is perfectly aligning with our strategy we have, so enabling green mobility.
Nice. Okay. Thank you very much for the insights on the EPP, where we currently stand at Vossloh, and also the next steps for our engineered polymer pad. Thank you very much, Timo, and thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the Enabling Green Mobility podcast. Thank you.